Hello. Welcome to the Thursday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Another day, another air advisory for HRM. It was kind of thick out there this morning, was it not? Heard reports of from our early morning crew that got up this morning where it was pretty thick. And then as I got ready for work today and got into my vehicle and drove to work, it was still pretty thick. Alistair Alders, our weather specialist, is suggesting that we'll see another shift in the wind today. So that means it will move out towards Kings County and such. So we will get a little bit of relief from it. But I think this is, the third or fourth day in a row now. I think this is probably something we're going to have to endure as we move forward as that wildfire continues to burn out of control. Thanks to Vanessa Vandenez on the other side of the glass this morning for doing the fantastic job that she does each and every day. Well, what's going on? I mentioned the Long Lake wildfire. It's 83 square kilometers now. DNR is expecting that fire behavior and intensity to pick up. They got a little bit of rain over the fire site yesterday, and by a little, I mean a little. And any rain, of course, is welcome for those folks that are out there. But DNR officials yesterday saying that they expect that the fire behavior will pick up there over the next day or so and into the Labor Day long weekend. So we'll keep an eye on that. Also, some reporting today in various media outlets across the region that we may get a closer look or a better idea as to how many homes have been destroyed now or structures have been destroyed by the Long Lake wildfire in West Dalhousie. We'll keep our ear to the ground on that, and should that number come out during the next 3 hours of the program, we certainly will bring that to you. Did you watch the video yesterday and from that breaking news story in Minnesota? Just absolutely tragic, wasn't it? Police are still apparently trying to put together a motive for yesterday's shooting. We saw that 2 kids were killed and 17 others, I think it was, were injured in a shooting. Kids attending a back-to-school mass. Obviously, still early days in that investigation, and police have a lot of work to do. But some of the news stories that I read with regards to that were that the shooter in this case used three weapons during his rampage, and each of those weapons were legally purchased. So whenever we see these stories, obviously our heart goes out to anybody that's impacted by it, anybody that's a victim of it or a family member of a victim. But it also raises those questions, right? Minnesota has kind of been a hot spot for gun violence as of late. If you remember back a few weeks, that was the scene. Minneapolis itself was the scene of a shooting that saw 2 Democrats, one family killed along with their dog, and then another Democratic state senator wounded. I think he and his wife were shot 7 times and survived. So Minnesota, which not normally is making headlines for these kind of events, is certainly at the forefront of what's going on in the United States. And whenever we see these kind of mass shootings, we always ask, when is this going to stop? And I think we can add this one to the top of the list. And I just don't have an answer. I really wish I did. It just doesn't seem that it doesn't matter how severe these events are in the United States. There's a lot of talk, and then a lot of people praying for victims, and then we just kind of go on down there, right? There's no concrete action to try and get to the root of the problem, which many will suggest that it's is the gun culture of the United States, and this is something that is becoming normal, right? This story will be off of the networks by tomorrow, which is just scary. That a mass shooting of this kind in a school, in a church, in a Catholic church at a school, and this will just become normalized, and we'll move on to the next bit of whatever the information is. Closer to home, Canada Post and Cup W met this week. Canada Post now is asking members of the union to review its latest offer as that labor discourse continues. Doesn't look like there's an immediate threat for a strike at Canada Post or with Cup W, but we know that we're getting into that time of the year when the leverage tends to ramp up. right? Canada Post busy season is right around the corner. It's almost September. And the I don't even want to say it. The Christmas season's not that far away. So that's where Canada Post is very busy, and that's where the leverage is. So we'll have to keep an eye on what's going on with that. Just quickly before we move on to the program today, Tuesday, of course, it's a long weekend this weekend. Monday is Labor Day, but Tuesday will mark 10 months since HRM Council was sworn into office. It goes by quickly, doesn't it? A lot's happened in those 10 months. Holy smokes. We've seen debate over the Windsor Street Exchange, lots of discussions here and out on the sidewalks about bike lanes and the cost of those, we'll say. We saw a flat tax increase, right? City Council not raising taxes, but before you start emailing me, I know how it works. We still saw a 4.7% increase on our tax bills this year, didn't we? There's been discussions about things like strong mayors, with back to school being next week. And I know we're focusing a little bit on that today, and we will tomorrow. And I know that many families are probably going to spend a good chunk of this weekend getting ready for their kids, be it at the elementary, middle school, high school, university level, getting them ready to go back to school. And, of course, we're watching the ongoing labor situation at Dalhousie University continue to unfold. DFA, the Faculty Association, they're still on strike, still on the picket line, and I stand to be corrected, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of movement with regards of getting the university and the Faculty Association back to class. What does that mean for students? We had a conversation with the president of the student union yesterday, who says there's a lot of things that are still kind of up in the air. They're trying to proceed with some normality. They're trying to carry on with orientation week. Do you remember orientation week? I certainly do. It was a lot of fun, but it must be a difficult situation for everybody involved. And I'm including the union in this, and I'm including the university in this. It's never good when there's a labor situation, but I'm really thinking about the students today who are in the middle and may have their radios turned on right now listening to us in the middle of move-in day. A bunch of streets blocked off down there at Dalhousie as they move into their residences and get geared up for the year, but there's still a lot of unknowns on the horizon for them as they move forward. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. 10 months on Tuesday since HRM Council has been sworn in. There's been a lot of discussion, a lot of debate, a lot of in-camera discussions, and some of them involving citizens, some of them involving the premier, some of them involving bike lanes and such and so forth. I'm curious today, and in the open hour at 11 o'clock, I'm going to ask you the question. Given that we're back to school and given that we're getting back into the academic calendar for the year, I think it's time for a report card on council. 10 months into the job. A, B, C, or F? What grade do you give HRM Council as we head into their second fall sitting around the table? So there's lots to talk about on the program today. I mentioned earlier that we'll be focusing a bit on back to school, and I mentioned that people are going to probably spend a good chunk of this weekend, if they haven't already, getting their kids ready. But there are some out there that are less fortunate, and back to school is a big bill to pay, and some that just can't. And we know that there's a lot of organizations out there that try to lend a helping hand for those who are trying to get school supplies for their kids as they get back to school. And one of them is our friends over at the Parker Street Food and Furniture Bank. They have a program that's been around for a long time, and they are stuffing backpacks as we speak. And we'll talk to the Director of Donor Relations and Communications for the food bank, or Parker Street Food and Furniture Bank, as part of that. And we're looking into the sky, and we're seeing that the hurricane lane is fairly clear as we speak. There's Ferdinand out there, but it's not going to have any impact. But we did have a pretty close brush last week with Erin, and we know wind has been something that's been a topic of discussion here in Nova Scotia. The premier announcing, I think there was 4 offshore wind sites. This is the Wind East project that he's been touting as the economic driver, the economic catalyst that's going to put Nova Scotia out of the bottom of GDP and right up into the top, selling excess wind power to the rest of the country and into the United States. But to do that, we got to put turbines out in the water, and there is very little data, as I understand, with what the impacts of these big storms like Hurricane Erin or the ones that we're more familiar with, Fiona, Dorian, you know the list. What that will what happens to the wind turbines? There's not a lot of work out there, and there are people that are much smarter than I that are looking into this, and we're going to explore that today when we have a conversation with Larry Hughes from Dalhousie University, who has a PhD student who is working on trying to determine what the impacts of these things would be. We're going to spend a lot of money. The Premier is bound and determined to get this project up and running, and we're going to spend a lot of money putting it out there. Is it going to be maybe a tragedy in the making? Can they withstand this kind of constant wind and they're turbines. They deal with wind, but not this kind of wind, I think is what I'm getting at. That's all part of the show today, and I mentioned it's back to school. We're going to stop and take our first break here on the Todd Veinotte Show, and when we come back, teaching students how to fail. I know parents perking their ears up and they're saying, what? But there's an organization out there, it's called Shift Canada, and they're teaching grade 5s through 12s how to fail, and we're going to dig into that as part of the program. Glad you're with us. Hope you can spend some time with us today. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand. We're back in minutes. All right, welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand. It is the final weekend. It's the last weekend of summer. I know it sounds depressing, but time marches on, as they say, and we still have a couple of great months of weather. I know, but it's that time where the students are going to try and soak up all the very last moments of their summer break before they head back to school, and parents will try to get them ready to have a successful school year and get them back into their routines and all of that stuff that we are all very familiar with, because let's face it, we've all gone through it. There is an organization out there that is putting a program, I think is the best way to describe it, into classrooms in Canada. It's happening in 5,100 of them, actually, and it's impacting about 150,000 students in all 12 provinces and territories. And it's a program called Shift Failure, and it's a program designed to teach students in grades 5 through 12 how to fail. Not something we think about when we think of school. We think of trying to succeed and trying to get those big grades and have some success and use that to move forward. But this program teaches students how to fail because really it's a good learning tool. We're very pleased to welcome to the program the CEO of Shift Canada. That's AJ Tibando. AJ, how are you?
Hi, thanks so much for having me on today.
We don't normally talk about failure and students in a positive light, do we?
We don't, and that's something that we're trying to change at Shift Canada. We see failure as a great teacher for helping students learn from their mistakes, take the fear out of making mistakes, and by doing that, help them take bigger chances in life.
How does it work? Is it a part of the curriculum? Is it something that's taught, or is it an overreaching thing?
Yeah, so it's what we call a teaching resource, and so it's a series of modules that we provide to teachers that they can sort of mix and match and plug into their existing programs how they see fit. And it's been very flexible, so it allows teachers to take things they're already teaching in the classroom and add a bit of a twist to it to bring in some more conversation around, if this doesn't work out, how are we going to react to that? What are we going to learn? How can we reflect on it? So we've seen some classes, some teachers build sort of whole, day-long projects or programs around it. Some teachers have built it into existing courses they're already teaching, and some schools have actually created extracurriculars around it. So like failing forward clubs and things like that.
So we use something that's not successful as I'm going to put in quotes around this, as a kind of a teaching moment and learning how to how to sort of react to it? Is that the genesis of it?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, we, of course, want students to ultimately succeed at school and at life. This isn't about encouraging them to try and actively fail tests. But the reality is, there are going to be moments where things don't work out the way you planned. And knowing how to react and have the resiliency and the determination to understand that, see it not as a setback, but a stepping stone to figure out what to do next is a really important skill for learning, but it's also a really important skill for life. At Shift Canada, we want to build a more entrepreneurial Canada, a more entrepreneurial culture. And we know that if you're afraid to fail, you're not going to make those big bets to try. And that's really what we want to do is teach kids that, these things aren't going to always work out the way you planned. You can handle whatever is going to come next. And because of that, because they're more comfortable with it, we hope that they are going to become more ambitious, more risk-taking, more creative, and more resilient.
You released your first annual impact report on the response to this program yesterday. What did the report find?
Yeah, it found that we're really tapping into a desire for this kind of experience and this kind of education across the country. We saw that, across students, 81% of them through our program became much more comfortable with the idea of failure and really connected to the idea that it's just a step along a journey of success. It's not a setback. We saw teachers hungry for these kinds of resources and really respond positively to the opportunity to teach this stuff in the classroom. And we've seen a lot of demand for this to expand. So in the next year, we're hoping to double the number of classrooms that we're in and the number of students that we serve to really make failure a normal part of the conversation when we're talking about success with students.
Obviously, the student matters here. And what are they telling you? Are they? You said that they're learning how to fail properly, but are they getting a benefit from it?
Yeah, we certainly are hearing that from them. That they're it's taking the pressure out of the experience for a lot of them. Kids are under a tremendous amount of pressure these days. From their parents, from teachers, from things like social media, and there's a lot of uncertainty in the world. They feel the pressure of that, and it can be a lot. And so, most of the messages that they get are, work harder and be more perfect so that you are successful in a really challenging world. And the idea of hearing someone say, you know what, it's okay if things don't work out. You have permission to fail, and we're going to give you the tools to deal with that so that you actually feel more confident in facing those really challenging experiences, and not more scared that if you screw one thing up, the whole world's going to fall apart. And so, it's been like a big breath of fresh air is really the message that we've been hearing from students, and it's taken some of that pressure off their shoulders.
How about teachers? I mean, this must take them a little bit out of their comfort zone.
Yeah, I think yes and no. I think that for a lot of teachers, certainly the message of, we're not telling them not to work hard, right? We're not telling them not to study for tests and do their best. I think a lot of teachers see that, the future of success for everyone is having a growth mindset, having a resilient, set of character traits that they can help students learn and grow. And I think one of the challenges teachers have had is that they haven't come up through a training system to be educators that have really taught them how to nurture those characteristics in the classroom in the way that they can sense they need to start doing. And so we've had a really positive response from teachers that, these are the tools that they've been looking for. And I think because we've designed these tools to integrate into some of the existing programming and coursework they're already teaching, it's made it easier for them to figure out how to weave this stuff into their programs, as opposed to feeling like, okay, now here's one more thing I have to teach, and it's going to be, totally different than everything else I'm teaching.
Is this, long-term goal? Are you hoping that this becomes part of the curriculum in Canada?
Yeah, our long-term goal is to really shift the culture of Canada to be more risk-taking, to be more entrepreneurial and innovative and creative. And so we're starting with youth and students because we know that that's where A lot of these, character traits and identities start to form at an early age. We'd like to see this in, every school across the country over time. That is certainly the goal, that this becomes the new normal for how we teach kids about success. We also teach them about failure as well.
Any plans to roll this out into the adult world? I know that there are a number of companies that are solely focused on winning and improving and those kind of things. This might be something that adults could learn as well.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's certainly something that we're looking at. As I said, this is about a cross-Canada culture shift, and so we're starting with students, but one of the things that we've heard as we've gotten out there and talked about this program is that particularly in a lot of businesses, creating that permission structure to allow workers to think about how to fail forward and how to embrace failure in order to make bigger bets and take bigger risks and be more ambitious in how they think about their work. That's been a really desired thing. And so we're certainly looking at how we can take what we've learned over this past year through this program and expand on it.
Where can we learn more about this, AJ?
Yes, you can visit our website. It's shiftcanada.org, and we have lots of information about the education program as well as our impact report there.
Appreciate your time.
Great. Thanks so much.
That is AJ Tibando. She is the CEO of Shift Canada. Not something that we want to hear, right? We don't want to hear that, anything when it comes particularly to our kids and their education is anything to deal with failure, right? It's always about success. And failure is a fantastic learning tool, right? In the real world, it happens. It happens a lot. And we don't just roll up into a ball and just shut down because we have. The successful change to that is that we learn from what we've done wrong, and then we move forward. So I think this is a great program for kids, and maybe there should be a module for parents too. Just saying. And maybe in the business world, right? How often have you heard those terms? We win, got to number one, got to do all this, and the failure's not an option. Well, it is, and it helps. To be quite honest, it does. We are going to stop. We are going to take a break. Blake is going to update us on what's going on in the news. And on the other side of it, hurricanes and offshore wind turbines. Wind east. Do we have enough data to tell us that this is safe to put these big turbines out onto the places like the Scotian Shelf? We're going to find out whether we have a conversation with a professor of electrical and computer engineering at Dalhousie. Larry Hughes, our guest. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ostrand. We're back in minutes. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ostrand. There's been a lot of talk of wind as of late. The first bunch of discussions came when the Premier announced that they had picked 4 areas that they were going to explore to build wind turbines as part of his energy program that he is looking to grow the provincial economy off of and send and sell electricity to other parts of Canada after, of course, dealing with our needs. And those 4 areas are the French Bank, the Middle Bank, Sable Island Bank, and up in Sydney, the Sydney Bites. But an article, an opinion piece in the Halifax Examiner caught my attention earlier this week, and it says that over the past few days, there's a chance that Hurricane Erin across parts of the Scotian Shelf, which some of these are on, and the relatively shallow banks extending into the Atlantic Ocean from mainland Nova Scotia through to Cape Breton Island. 4 of the Scotian Shelf banks, the Sydney Bight, French Bank, Middle Bank, and Sable Island Bank, were designated by the federal government to be Canada's first offshore wind energy areas in July. Now, there apparently isn't a whole lot of data available out there on what's wind like Hurricane Erin, surf like Hurricane Erin produced, will have on these things. And one of the people responsible for that op-ed is on the line with me now, and we're very pleased to welcome Larry Hughes to the program. Larry, how are you?
Very well, Dan. Yourself?
I am well. Is that really what the concern here is? Is that we really don't have a lot of really good data on what a hurricane means to that shallow area?
Yes, and I guess we can end the interview here. Yes, we don't have enough data, is what it boils down to.
Now, obviously, when we think of wind turbines, I mean they deal with wind, right? That's how they function, and one would think that they would be able to withstand a hurricane, but there's a whole bunch of different variables that come with that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, as you said at the outset, there's the hurricane strength winds that may or may not have crossed when Erin arrived. There's hurricane strength winds, and there's also the wave action and the waves caused by the hurricane. This can ultimately cause damage in a number of areas, as can the winds. There are organizations that set standards for this to try to ensure that the wind turbines will not be damaged. But even so, wind turbines can be damaged both by extreme waves and extreme winds.
Now, we're not the first place that is going to put these things into the water, right? They're off of coasts all over the world.
There's really two major. They are, but there's really two major places in the North Sea between the United Kingdom and Europe, and along the coast of China and down into Vietnam, and the coasts along the turbines along China's coast have been shown to be particularly vulnerable. I have to be careful here because there are cases of the turbines being damaged. A year or so ago, there was a typhoon that went through the region and did damage some turbines, essentially what is referred to as near shore along China's coast.
So obviously, would these things be in danger of toppling over, or do they lose their blades, or do we know?
That can happen. I think the bigger concern is just stresses on the equipment over time. That if the waves, if there's bolts that could fracture or whatever, they may come under stress. The blades themselves may come under stress by oscillating. Now, there's ways to get around this that can stop the blades, or can reduce the likelihood of the blades being damaged. The hub where the blades connect to, they're connected by bolts. If the bolts fail or become loose, again, what it does is it potentially adds to their cost,
right?
Because maintenance crews would have to go out and inspect them, and that's going to add to the cost of electricity.
That was kind of my next question, Larry, is that, there's not, there are no humans in the vicinity of these things. So, if one breaks, it's not like it's going to kill anybody, but, it would create obviously a maintenance issue, and it's not like we can just drive up to it. We have to get out into the water and try and fix these things.
No, absolutely. And if you're talking about during the hurricane season, which is peaks in September, it goes from August, peaks in September and into October, that can, you would have to be sending people out or simply not running the turbine during that period.
Do these things sit right on the ocean floor, or do they dig them in, or what's the procedure for installing these things in the water?
There's really two ways. One, you can have what is referred to as fixed bottom, which for all intents and purposes is the turbine is a pile driver, puts the turbine's base, which can be huge. Some of your listeners may recall 2 years ago in 2023, a number of ships were in harbor taking turbine bases
right
to Vineyard just off Nantucket, and these things are huge, and so they are pushed into the seabed, and the turbines are connected to those. They also can suffer stresses. You also have floating turbines, which seems strange, but the turbine is attached essentially to some form of flotation device, which is then anchored to the seabed. And in extreme winds, the moorings can be damaged. So there are ways, the ways of connecting the turbine to the seabed isn't immune from both the hurricane winds and, more to the point, the wave action.
What kind of equipment is required, Larry, and to get the data that we need to properly study this? I know there's stuff out there now, there's buoys and those kind of things. Do we need to have more of that stuff out there? I imagine we can't just do that over one hurricane season. We'll need data from several.
Again, unfortunately, you hit the nail on the head. There are essentially three buoys, essentially at the edge of the Sable Shelf, which clearly aren't enough. If you look at the U.S. coastline, it is chock-a-block with buoys, sensor buoys. Yes, there is going to be a need, as you were listing off the different areas. The areas are going to need to be measured. Both the seabed, what the seabed is, because it goes back to the question: do you have a fixed base or do you have a floating turbine? And you will also want to measure the winds, both the wind and the wave actions, because if you're a developer and you come in, you're going to look at this and say, we'll need this type of turbine, or it's simply too expensive, or they have to make a decision, and they will be ultimately responsible for doing the measurements.
Larry, should we push pause on this, in your opinion, until we get this data, or can we do both at the same time?
The underlying assumption is the developers, they will apply for licenses. They will be granted a license in one of the four areas. They will then be responsible for doing that, and they're told, this is your area, go for it. I do think that when the Premier first announced this, back in 2022, that he wanted to have Nova Scotia a global leader in offshore wind, when he announced that, there should have been an effort to put sensor buoys in, at least in the Scotian Shelf. I mean, we didn't necessarily know where they would have to go, but you would know they had to go in the Scotian Shelf.
Fascinating stuff, Larry. Appreciate your time, sir.
It's always my pleasure.
That is Larry Hughes. He is a professor at the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering at Dalhousie University. Demand for back-to-school supplies is straining those who are trying to help those less fortunate. A conversation with the Director of Donor Relations and Communications for the Parker Street Food and Furniture Bank, Romaine Rhoden. When we come back, you're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Allstrand. We're back in minutes.
X.
Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Allstrand. It is almost there. We're almost at the long weekend. We're almost at the end of quote-unquote summer, and it's back to school time for many after this long weekend on Tuesday and through the rest of the week. Students will be heading back to the routines of going to class, and I know many parents out there are perhaps sharpening their pencils, so to speak, to try and figure out how they're going to fill those book bags this year as their kids do get ready to go back to school. This from the CBC's website. Local organizations are struggling to keep up with demand for back-to-school supplies, with some saying they've even maxed out their waiting list. Parker Street Food and Furniture Bank here in Halifax has run a back-to-school program as long as I can remember. It's at least 18 years, and it's says it's seen its greatest demand this year. The program provides low-income students in HRM with backpacks full of school supplies, things like paper and pencils and scissors and that kind of stuff. This year's program opened at the end of May, and the Director of Donor Relations and Communications at Parker Street, Romaine Rhoden, says registration closed after 2 months due to high demand. And Romaine joins us on the program on the phone. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me, Dan.
Oh, no, we've been talking. I've been doing this for a long time now, and it seems that we do this every year, but this one is particularly tough, right? You've got a long wait list already.
That's right. You see, the back to school program it has become somewhat of a pillar in the Halifax Regional Municipality for many families that look towards our services, and so this year has been no different in terms of the support that's needed. And so we're seeing that while we want to, fulfill 1,000 backpacks, we have a long waiting list of clients waiting to be served. So we're trying our very best to serve them as well.
So you've got a good. Are you on track to fill those 1,000?
Yes, we are on track to fill those 1,000 backpacks. Back to school orders from our clients. Yes, and we do have a waiting list at this point as well.
How many people are on it?
We have close to 200 people on that waiting list.
Wow.
Yes. So you see the needs are growing, the demand is growing, and so we're really trying our very best. And I want to say we have been keeping up to date with the demands in some sense of it, and this is only possible through donations.
Right, and this year is probably, if not the toughest that Parker Street's had to deal with, right?
That's right. What we've done this year to make the program a little bit better in terms of getting those people that actually need the support the most, because if we just allowed any and everyone to come in, it would be even over 1,000 in terms of what we would need to supply. But what we've tried to do is ask for pay slips and stuff like that to get people to give us a real story as to why they need the support. And to be honest, over 90% of our clients that register for the back to school program actually needs the program. So it shows that the demand is really growing.
It's unfortunate you have to do that. I mean, you want to help everybody, right?
Yes, that's right.
Are you still accepting donations? I know we're getting kind of down to the wire here.
Absolutely. We're still accepting donation because we started the back to school distribution program yesterday, and we're running it into today up to 6 p.m. today. And so we're still encouraging as many as possible to donate, because even after today, we know for sure we will have that wait list. And so what we'll try to do even after the program closes is to distribute as many supplies as we possibly can.
What kind of things are you putting in the backpacks?
Well, we have binders, colored pencils, crayons, erasers, glue sticks, highlighters, loose leaves, scribblers, markers, pencils, pens, rulers, sharpeners, scissors, geometry sets, notebooks, that sort of thing. And this year, through the generous donation of some of our local business partners, we have kids' books and kids' toys that they can play with as well. So it has been good in that sense.
Now, this obviously is coming back to school on Tuesday, and you said you started the program today. If somebody wants to help you out, Romaine, how do they do that?
Well, they can go to our website. That's where we ask them to go first. They can donate online through our website. That's www.parkerstreet.org, and just select donate and select the back to school program. And of course, you can always do a fundraiser or a back to school drive in your offices, at home, in your workplace, and of course you can drop that at 2415 Maynard Street, or we can do a pickup as well. For ease, for some people, we do accept e-transfers as well through cfo@parkerstreet.org. And when you're sending that e-transfer, just let it be known that you're sending it directly for the back to school program. And you can feel free to drop anything at our thrift stores as well, which we have one in Dartmouth at the 110 Woodlawn Road and one in Spryfield at 344 Herring Cove Road.
So are you looking for cash? Or are you looking for actual school supply donations, or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both. We understand that the demand can be, a little bit difficult for some people to go out and actually get those back to school supplies themselves. So cash is always easier, and we definitely, take that cash. And what we try to do most times is we buy in bulk, so it comes at a little cheaper price. Right. So that means we can get more.
Well, Romaine, I hope this helps, and I hope that we get some more donations, and I hope that you can get to those people on the waiting list, because everybody should have some school supplies heading back to school this year.
That's right, and a lot of people, have so many things to say about the back to school program in terms of the support that we give to students, but one thing we know for sure, we want to ensure that every child, every family that comes to us, they leave feeling dignified. And when they go back to school, if they're seeing their friends with new back-to-school items, they can feel the same way about their back-to-school items. And so it's a sense of dignity and a sense of belonging. And so we try to make sure that is at the forefront of what we do here. Appreciate your time, sir. I know you're busy. Thank you very much, Dan. Have a great day. That is Romaine Rhoden. He is with the Parker Street Food and Furniture Bank. Check it out. Check out the website if you're able to donate. 200 families on a wait list of already 1,000 people. The busiest year that the Parker Street Food and Furniture Bank has experienced in the 18 years that it has done this program. We're going to stop. We're going to take a break. Blake's going to update us on what's going on in the news. And on the other side of it, it is time for the open hour. Today, my question to you is a pretty simple one. Tuesday will mark 10 months since HRM Council was sworn in. Lots happened over those 10 months. We've had debates over the Windsor Street Exchange, lots of discussions, both at the council table and here on the Todd Veinotte Show over bike lanes. A flat tax rate increase this year, but we still got socked with a 4.7% increase on our tax bill. There's been discussions now over strong mayor powers for Mayor Fillmore. With back to school set for next week, I think it's time for a report card on council. A, B, C, or F? What grade do you give HRM Council as we head into their second fall? 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000. Or if you like, 1-877-801-8255. Report card time. I used to just shudder when the report cards came out. But it's time for a report card. 10 months in, what grade do you give HRM Council? The open hour. When we come back, you're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Allstrand. We're back in minutes.
Facts.
All right, welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. It is 11 o'clock, and that means it's time now for the open hour. The lines are open, 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. 10 months in, Halifax Regional Council on Tuesday will celebrate its 10-month anniversary. A lot has happened in those 10 months since the new councillors mixed with the old councillors, and we saw a new mayor sworn into office. I'm curious, as we're getting back to school, it puts you into that sort of academic mind, and it's time for a report card. What grade would you give Halifax Regional Council after 10 months of being in command, so to speak? An A, a B, a C, or an F? Again, your grades for Halifax Regional Council: an A, a B, a C, or an F. 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. The lines are open if you want to get in. And before we go to the lines, I just want to pass along a very quick programming note. The Department of Natural Resources, actually the Department of Emergency Management, and officials will address the wildfire situation here in Nova Scotia at 2 o'clock today. We will be taking that news conference live here on 95.7 News Radio. So we will jump into the Rob Snow Show at 2, and we'll bring you that news conference live. I think there's going to be some good information that is released on the situation in the Annapolis Valley. So we will we'll jump into that news conference at 2, and when it concludes, we will bring you right back to Rob Snow Show in progress. So a bit of a programming change today, but I think that there will be some good information released today. So we will take that news conference here at 2 o'clock. Make sure to set your clocks, so to speak. 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. City Council, what grade would you give them over the last 10 months that they've been in power? 902-405-6000 is the number. We begin with Chris. Chris, how are you?
Not bad. Good morning, Dan. As whenever given an opportunity to vote, I like to be early at the polls, so I'm glad to be your first caller.
There you go.
I give the mayor an A.
Okay.
More for effort than actually results, because he's being, as we're well aware, he's being hamstrung by council. Council in general, is there anything less than an F?
No, F is it. I'm sorry.
Z, did you say?
No, F is the. That's it. I get it. Okay. F minus, right? F
minus, yes, absolutely. F minus. Total fiscal irresponsibility, abysmal performance. There's a few councillors on there that are trying, and they have tried to support the mayor, but it's a shit show down there. Honest to God, there's these guys. If you don't even try, you can do a better job. It's low. The majority of the council is actually trying to do. It seems that they're trying to do as poor a job for the taxpayer as possible. If you or I or anyone listening out there performed that poorly in their job, you'd be out of a job, would you not? We need a mechanism whereby we can recall a councillor, or the mayor for that matter. There needs to be a mechanism more than just every 4 years you get to vote them in or vote them out. We need a mechanism by where we can get rid of any councillor that the people in the constituency or in the district deem to be doing a poor job for their district. I don't know what you think on that.
Well,
or what your thoughts are, Dan,
I think I get it, and recall has been something that's been discussed at the municipal level here for a while, and at the provincial level, to be honest, and even at the federal government. My concern at the municipal level is, Chris, that we will be in constant campaigns, that we will get somebody in, they'll have enough people against, and then they'll bring it back, and we'll be in a constant state of flux when it comes to elections.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. Excuse me, but you may find that initially, once the power of recall is actually put in place, if it were to be put in place. But when you have that threat as such hanging over your head, because let's face it, Dan, a lot of people perform at their job because they know if they don't, they're going to be fired. These guys know they can't be fired.
Right.
And 3 years, 4 years down the road, by the time another election comes along, they'll find a way of weaseling out of what they've actually done. People will forget about it because the news cycle is you talk about something today, then tomorrow something else bounces across the stage and everyone chases that shiny object.
Right.
And that's what happens. And people tend to forget so quickly. The electorate has a very short memory, it seems. And you may have a bit of upset initially, people jumping on the bandwagon to recall councillors and so on. But I think on an ongoing basis, if that were there, it would be the very best thing we could possibly do, because it would give them at least a threat that they have to be accountable, they have to be transparent, and they have to at least be perceived as doing a good job. And I don't think there's many people out there that perceive their councillor as doing a good job for them.
Chris, I don't think. It's interesting. It's interesting you give Mayor Fillmore an A, who's supposed to be kind of the quarterback of all this, and then you fail the rest of council. It's an interesting dichotomy.
Well, I feel that the mayor is trying. I kind of qualified it by saying effort as opposed to result, because he's being hamstrung. You have several other councillors on there that have supported him and tried to support him. When you're playing a football game, you use the quarterback thing. Right. When you're playing a football game, how well can the quarterback do if the rest of the team does not block, does not support him in his thrust forward, and so on? How can the quarterback win a game if the rest of the team is not playing on his side?
Fair point.
And that's what I feel this council, several council members, I'm not going to name them, but we all know, I think, who they are. Several council members, I think, are actually going out of their way at every opportunity to trip the mayor up and try and put him in a bad position. They're not trying to help the situation or help the mayor at all, whether you agree. And the thing is they're all forgetting about, Dan, is that they were elected to push the agenda and the wishes of their constituents, not their own personal agenda or their own personal wishes. Whether you like, for example, bike lanes or not, if the majority of people tell you they don't like them or don't want them, that's where you should go, not with the fact that, well, I don't, the hell with you, I don't care what you say, I like a bike lane, I want a bike lane, or I want a stadium, or I want this, or I want that, so I'm going to push that. The heck with my constituents. They're not listening to the constituents.
All fair points, Chris. I appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, Dan.
Have a great day. 902-405-6000. It's that easy. 902-405-6000. Your report card. 10 months in, Halifax Regional Council will celebrate its 10-month anniversary on Tuesday. What grade would you give them? An A, a B, a C, or a D? I got an email from Mark. It said, overspending reason number 1. Bad decision-making related to overspending. They see imaginary bikes that we don't, giving the Wanderers land away for good to private business, continuing these bad decisions for 3 years, F- times 16. That from Mark. And John writes, you forgot one letter. I would give them a D. Well, I was trying to make it simple, John, but okay, well, I'll put the D in there. A, B, C, D, or an F. What do you give Regional Council for their first 10 months? We're going to stop and take a break. Lines are open. The number, 902-405-6000, 902-405-6000, or 1-877-801-8255. The open hour continues after this. All right, welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. The telephone number is 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000. That is the number to get onto the program and give Regional Council a grade. We are sometimes criticized here at the Todd Veinotte Show. I know, it happens. That we dump on council a lot. A lot of the time. So here's your chance. If you were grading council on their performance 10 months into their mandate, what would you give them? 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000. A, B, C. John wants to have a D in there, so we'll throw that D or an F. Again, 902-405-6000. Let's welcome James to the program. James, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Good morning.
What's on your mind?
Calling mainly to give a grade to council, but very quickly before that, you mentioned off the top of the show, I believe, that you find it surprising that there would be violence, in particular, in this case, gun violence in a city such as Minneapolis. Just a quick reminder, that's where George Floyd was killed. And,
no, I get it, right? But when we think of the big mass shootings, we're often thinking of the big cities like New York and Los Angeles and San Francisco. Minneapolis is kind of tucked up in the north.
No, I agree, but yet obviously there was, in fact, a lot of violence after George Floyd was killed. There was the reactionary violence. Anyway, Minneapolis is not immune. I don't think any place, I haven't done all my research, but there's hardly any place in the United States that's immune from gun violence, unfortunately.
Right.
I did hear on the news, the shooting in Minneapolis was the 25th school shooting this year.
Wow.
It's just wild. Anyway, HRM Council, I'm going to go with B, not D or F or whatever. They produced a comprehensive regional plan, and they sent it to the province, and then the province summarily rejected it with some mumbo-jumbo about setbacks from water courses 20 meters or 30 meters, like talk about not exactly a major issue. The regional plan contained significant, and it still contains, if they can revise it somehow, if the province will make it clear whether a revised version is welcome or not, but significant initiatives for more housing, including some affordable housing. So, the shiny object, the Wanderers grounds, everyone's upset. No decision's been made. There is talk of some kind of larger stadium, and there's talk of who's going to pay what. The private proponent has offered to pay at least some of the cost. The Metro Center was built in the late 70s with 100% public money. Now, it happened to be provincial to the best of my knowledge, but there's nothing wrong with governments getting into the, quote, stadium business if it's going to have significant spin-off benefits and tax revenue for decades to come.
Many economists will disagree with you, though. I mean, we talked to Mojo Lander, who says that it's never a good idea for stadiums to be built with public money.
Ask him. I'll ask him if you have him on your show. Sure, he's an expert in the field or a specialist in the field. I don't think he's researched the Metro Center. It has paid for itself 1,000 times over. We got a major junior hockey team because we built the Metro Center. We wouldn't have had one otherwise. So, there can be exceptions to his general rule.
Okay.
Anyway, so the shiny object, the Wanderers grounds, it's a distraction. The debate will occur and a decision will be made. But your previous caller said we've decided to put public money in. We haven't. And on much bigger issues, the regional plan, which will affect everybody because it's roads, yes, bike lanes, but housing in particular, speeding up zoning and et cetera. Anyway, I won't go into all the details, but council, and I happen to live, and I won't necessarily, I'll name my councillor if you want, but my councillor is particularly open to she holds meetings with her constituents all the time, meets you in a cafe and has a one-on-one. It's open, you just drop in. But she's particularly open to feedback and conversation and so on. So they're not all, they're not all bad. Maybe a few are, but overall, I think they're doing their best. And it's the province that's creating more of the turmoil.
James, great call. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. James gives them a B+. Our first caller, Chris, F-. A couple of our emailers, F-, if not more. What's your thoughts? What letter grade would you give regional council as they move through the 10th month of their mandate? 902-405-6000, 902-405-6000. Let's welcome Bill to the show. Bill, how are you?
Not too bad. I don't think I want to put my grade on them because I want to try to do business that makes a difference.
Okay.
I think you got enough. But anyway, what I want to talk about where they can come in the picture is I think 7 years now. This is a little different than your thing this morning, but I'm still pounding away on no flag in the public gardens on top of that pavilion.
Didn't we, Bill, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought we had discussed that with Councillor Cleary, who said that the construction of that roof doesn't allow people to get up on it. It'll break.
That's such a crazy. I mean, they've had a flag on that there maybe 100 years.
Right, but they changed the roof, did they not?
So what?
Did they not redo the roof?
I don't know, but to me it doesn't.
That's what Councillor, and if it isn't Councillor Clear, I apologize, but I remember having a conversation with somebody on Councillors on the Hot Seat who said that you couldn't get up on the roof to install the pole because you'd break the roof.
Okay, how about one of these little machines there you go along and
right.
You can do it with machinery and so on. The bottom line, I was on the Public Gardens board, and I brought up what I consider a non-controversial design for a flag. I think part of it is I think there's some.
Bill, are you there? I think we lost Bill. Vanessa, did we lose Bill? She's on the phone.
What did you say?
There you are. Sorry, Bill, we lost you there for a minute. Go ahead.
The bottom line is I designed a flag for the Public Gardens. It consisted of scenes in the Public Gardens, which wouldn't be controversial that they didn't like Queen Victoria or whatever the reasons mean, that reason about not being able to get up on top of that pavilion, I don't know what to make of that. I mean, you get backhoes and everything else going to do the job. But I think it's pathetic. 7 years, no flag on top of that. And all these years over, I wish your listeners would really get in on this one here. I don't care what you put up there. Get something up there. But anyway, I hate to go on and on about it, but I hope your listeners are in some sympathy with me with the public gardens. I'm a member of the public gardens, but not getting not getting the help I want there. So anyway, that's my little take. You're doing a good job.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you very much.
Have a good one. 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000. Very quickly before we get to the news at the bottom of the hour, Jeremy wants to talk about the public gardens. Jeremy, how are you?
I'm good. I just quickly tuned in here. I haven't heard the rest of the show, but the one thing that stood out to me was that, if it's so that Councillor Cleary said that there's no way to install a flag because of the construction of the roof, I would find that to be incredibly surprising. I've been in construction on and off for 20 years now, and Bill's 100% right. There's lots of machines out there that'll safely get a individual in a position to install a flag there, whether it be, they got to build staging around it, or whether they got, there's look, they can build a Confederation Bridge. They can find a way to put a flag on top of the pavilion and the public gardens. That's, to me, I would say that's hogwash. I don't understand that logic, because I've been on many projects and they sound a lot more complicated and, engineering feats of marvel. They're not just putting a flag on top of a pavilion. Now, again, I don't know the exact construction details, but I'm pretty sure where there's a will, there's a way as far as this is concerned. So I don't think there's the political will or the municipal will to do it. That's, and I'm sorry that Bill is having a hard time getting traction with it. I think he's got a good point there. I think, if council really wanted to make it happen, they could and they would.
Jeremy, appreciate the call.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks. 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. Perhaps someone from the public gardens or the councillor down there can give us a ring and let us know why we can't have a flag on top of that structure at the public gardens. We are going to stop. We're going to take a break. We're going to continue with the open hour on the other side of it. A number of you are online on the line. We'll get to as many calls as we can, so stick around. We're going to get letter grades from regional council. 10 months in, what kind of job are they doing? A, B, C, D, or F? Your chance to give council a passing grade or not. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. We're back after the news. Welcome back and happy Thursday. This is the open hour. The lines are open, 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. We're playing teacher today, and we are giving Halifax Regional Council its report card. 10 months into its mandate, what letter grade do you give Halifax Regional Council thus far? A, B, C, D, or F? 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. 6,000. Let's welcome Joe to the show. Joe, how are you?
I've been better. How about yourself?
I'm not bad. What's on your mind?
Well, the obvious. You asked for a grade,
sure.
And I would give them an I.
Okay. Well, it's not on the option list, but I understand why you're doing it.
Neither of the other subjects that people call and talk about. And it'd be a good idea if you limit people to one subject. I think that would be more efficient, but you're running the show and I'm not.
Fair.
I give them an eye. Because I remember back in the day, 60, almost 70 years ago, they used to give an eye for incomplete.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yep.
I give them an incomplete. They don't. They haven't done much, and what they've done is kind of an embarrassing mess. An eye for incompetence, because I don't think we necessarily get the top quality people to run for these jobs that we can in any other job. You have to fill out an application. You have to give some information, personal information. And I think maybe, I know this isn't doable, but maybe if we ran background checks, had IQ tests, and psychological evaluations for candidates, we could cull out a lot of people that are winding up representing us on our day-to-day lives that just aren't competent.
Well, we do have kind of a job interview, though, right? Because there is a campaign, and I don't know if an IQ test would certainly not be a possibility.
No, Dan, you're missing the point. The point is there is no interview. Maybe if they had public interviews.
Well, they campaigned for a month. So, I mean, isn't that not a job interview?
No. It's a sales pitch.
Okay. So I'm curious as to what you would consider to be a job interview for a counselor.
Have a cable TV show where they have to perform some kind of an interview of a panel of selected people. I really don't know, but
there was 130 candidates. There was 109 candidates in the last election. That would take forever, would it not?
Well, what we're doing now isn't working.
Okay, fair.
And the reason the premier has stepped in, he felt it was his fiduciary responsibility to untie the knot that they've created. They just don't seem to be able to perform competently. So I have some suggestions. I mean, some of them are probably sound outrageous. They're not doable. But for that matter, political candidates have there's a lowest standard set for them to qualify themselves to apply for a job where they're running our day-to-day lives. And I'm not saying a lot of quality. There is some, and I'm not tarring all the counselors with the same brush. I'm sure there's some good, empathetic, intelligent counselors, but there really isn't a very high bar. And I think all of this, I just think there's a better way of doing it, but we don't have the will to do something like that because it seems like municipal politics aren't very important to us. We get 33% turnout?
That's a fair point.
It's pitiful. So we're getting the quality of people that we deserve. If we don't want to get off our ass, get out there and get involved or vote, then this is what we're winding up with. I'm in a constituency where I consider my counselor AI. Arrogant and ignorant, and it's pretty hard to deal with people like that. So I'm sure there are other counselors that are doing a good job. I just don't know. That's the problem. And the other issue along the same lines is these in-camera meetings should not be allowed.
I hear you. I totally agree with you.
We're their employers, and they're telling us that it's in our best interest if they just keep it to themselves, and that's BS.
I understand. I understand the need for it for some reasons, like if it's a contract thing or something along those lines. But those shouldn't take very long. That should be a 10-minute discussion, right?
I agree, and it's being abused.
I agree. 100% agree with you, Joe.
I think Andy Fillmore appealed to Premier Tim because he didn't know what to do about it, and unfortunately, I think Mayor Mikey set the bar so low that the council thinks that they're in charge. And I think they need someone, a strong leader that takes charge of the entire council and gives it clear direction. Because from the outside looking in, it looks like an episode of the Keystone Cops. Thanks for your time, Dave.
Appreciate it, Joe. 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. Let's welcome Bertie to the program. Bertie, how are you?
Oh, did you say Bernie?
I did.
Okay. I give them an F minus and lower if possible.
Okay, why?
Because I listen to the news and that quite a bit. In fact, I listen to you guys every morning to see what's going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear them, and some of them are actually, I'm going to say it's stupid. So that's the way I feel. Especially the one, I'll be polite, won't mention his name. I think everybody knows, even about the, water in Sullivan's Pond, different things he's done through the years. And I thought, boy, I hope people remember this stuff. But anyway, F minus.
Bernie, appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. Your chance to give your letter grade to Halifax Regional Council 10 months in. Incomplete is probably a fair assessment. of what's going on. I know they have another 3 years to go, but there is a body of work out there over the last 10 months that I think we can get an idea of what we think the performance level of Halifax Regional Council has been. Your chance to sound off on it. 902-405-6000 is the number. We welcome Greg to the program. Greg, how are you?
Fine, Dan. How are you?
Good. What's on your mind?
I'm probably called a little too late because I'm going to echo Joe's comments almost verbatim.
Okay.
I don't follow municipal, provincial, federal, or international politics at all. Don't really care about it. So I give them an F.
An F. Okay. Any particular reason why?
I'm just a mean-spirited guy, Dan.
Yeah. No, I mean, you have to have a reason. We just, you follow what's going on, Greg. I know you do. So, like, why led you to go down the failure route?
I don't actually give them an F. I'm just kind of
understood
mocking people a little bit who don't follow it and still criticize. I think we have to give them more time. It's too early. It is a bit dysfunctional, but there have been a lot of changes. I think this time next year would probably be a really strong indication as to how they're doing. But the fact that people are coming across so negatively, I think, is a good thing because it will pressure them into being very, very hyper aware. We are paying attention, and they have to start working as a team. I'd like them to look at it as if they were Team Canada, Team Nova Scotia, Team Halifax, however you want to look at it, and then start functioning that way, helping each other out, assisting on projects, trying to see the other person's point of view, and getting things done for the people and stop letting their personalities get in the way. So that's my take, Dan. Thanks for listening.
I appreciate it, Greg. 902-405-6000, 902-405-6000. Greg raises some interesting points about us, keeping council's feet to the fire. There used to be a fellow that sat in this chair. In fact, the studio is named after him, and that is, of course, the legendary Rick Howe that said, if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. Council's letter grade, A, B, C, D, or F. How are they doing thus far? 902-405-6000. The open hour continues right after the break.
X.
All right, welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. This is the open hour. Today we're asking you the question. Well, we're asking you to grab the big red pen, so to speak, and give Regional Council a letter grade. It's, of course, the last week before school returns. We're in a bit of a school state of mind, so to speak, so I thought appropriate for us to give Council a grade as they approach their 10-month anniversary of their mandates. 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. Let us welcome Gloria to the program. Gloria, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks, Dan. What a beautiful day out there.
It is. It's gorgeous. It's a little smoky, but okay.
Yeah, it is smoky. Dan, I give them an F.
I figured as much.
Not all of them, the most of them.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why.
Sure.
There is a code of conduct. Not many people know that. It was put in place last year. One of the big things is be respectful to the public and to other members of council. They are disrespectful, some of them. They scream, they yell, to the people who pay the salary and the pensions. Imagine you talking to your employer like that. How long would you last?
Not very long.
They fabricate stories like the number of cyclists, proclaiming that people are stupid. They say that bike lanes don't cause congestion when all you have to do is drive down to Wise Road on Dartmouth and see where buses can no longer make a right-hand turn when there's no traffic coming. They're tied up. And the other thing, Dan, they have their own agendas. It's not the agenda that the people want. And you know what I did today, Dan?
What'd you do?
I wrote to the Premier of Nova Scotia. asking him to do the same thing that they have in Alberta. In Calgary, you can recall a councillor who is not doing his or her job, who is ignoring what the taxpayers want and doing their own thing. You can recall them by petitioning. The residents who voted can sign a petition and ask for a recall of that person. That's what we've come to the stage. Never ever thought we'd come to this point. We've come to the place where we need to do that. Just last week when Sam Austin did the big job on Slater Street, he remarked they didn't want it, but he's doing it anyway. This is the attitude they have, and it makes me sick. And I would never, in my 23 and a half years, talk to people and treat them the way they treat the taxpayers. So I think it's time, and I hope the Premier, when he's giving the Mayor the extra powers, which the Mayor needs for us to get anywhere, to get any work done, that he also looks at this recall for these councillors.
Gloria, always a pleasure.
Thanks, Dan.
Have a great day. 902-405-6000. 902-405-6000. Do you agree with Gloria? Is it a F minus? Your letter grade for council. Let's go back to the phones and welcome Glenn to the show. Glenn, how are you?
Good, Todd. How are you?
I'm Dan, but I'm doing well.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Dan.
It's all good.
I'm an F minus also.
Okay.
And I think that there should be a crash course, training course for anyone that wants to run, so they have an idea of what they're getting into, and we shouldn't be the ones to train them. Number one. Number two, if they don't call you back or send you an email back, or even if you had them at your house and they haven't solved any problems for you, whether you liked it or not, what good are they to the taxpayer?
Sounds like you have personal experience with that, Glenn.
Yes, I have. Yeah, in four accounts. Yeah. So I'm not voting for councillors anymore, and I'm not voting for the mayor anymore.
Well,
what's the sense?
But that doesn't really help, does it? Because then there's just one less person voting.
I agree with exactly what you're saying, but we're the taxpayer, and I actually have two properties, so I'm paying double taxes for, an actual result from a counselor. And when they won't pay you back, when they don't call you back or deal with one of your questions, I don't get it. Why are they allowed to do that?
Fair point, Glenn. I don't have an answer for you.
That's my 2 cents. Okay, thanks.
All right, have a great day. 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. Let's welcome Joe to the show. Joe, how are you?
Hey, Dan.
What's up?
I have to agree with, from Bill on up that I've listened to. I honestly, if there's a need for a Canadian flag and we're spending $100 million building roads, and Dan, I heard today, just listening to your news, that Ukraine, Kyiv, was bombed by close to, over 400 drones.
Well, it was over 500 from what I understand. Yep.
I don't want to say 6 or whatever, right? It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Can you imagine this city going through that and talking about bike lanes and Dan, if I could give a grade to our constituents or whatever, I'd give it a 0. It's not a number. I'm giving them 0. And I liked the I think it was Jeremy maybe that said no, it was David. I think I don't want to
sure.
I don't want to misspeak.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But I like that I, but I came up with a 0 way before I heard that. So it's got to be put into perspectives. Can you imagine this city getting bombed? And here we are talking about like the dysfunction of counselors. And yeah, it is. It's dysfunction. So maybe it's a D, I guess. I don't know. But I'm still giving it a 0.
Joe,
and
appreciate the call, sir.
And yeah, and Dan, listen.
Yep.
Have a wicked day, and I hope everybody else does like has a wicked day too, because I mean it's Nova Scotia, and we know what's going on.
Joe, appreciate it, sir.
Absolutely.
And we'll do our best. And we'll do our best to have a wicked day. Got an email from Don, who writes, "We've all heard the quote from Winston Churchill: 'Democracy is a terrible system, but it's better than the rest.' He says that I agree with Churchill. Just look south of the border for what an alternative system might look like. It's chaos down there." He said your caller, Chris, suggested a recall system. Now, to be fair, Chris wasn't the only one. I think Gloria was talking about it, which would be a chaotic system since special interest groups will try to dominate the recall process. They would effectively have counselors in their pockets. I would guess that most of your callers don't have enough relevant information to be knowledgeable to give enough to give a rating, but this group of counselors is probably no better nor worse than previous councils. C would be my grade. But again, I'm not qualified to give a rating. Also, your callers very often don't seem to recognize that running a city is very complicated, to say the least. Callers make it sound as if it is easy. And that is from Don. Appreciate each and every one of you picking up the phone, dialing the numbers, and joining the program. I learn each and every day I sit here and do that. You all make my day when you do it. Tomorrow is Friday, of course, and we will be doing an open hour, which is the tradition here on the program. But we're going to do something just a little bit different tomorrow. So make sure that you mark down in your calendars, or you set an alarm, or you do whatever it is that you do for the show tomorrow. Of course, it kicks off at 10, but the open hour will go at 11 o'clock. But Vanessa has something cooked up that I think is going to be fantastic, and I think it's going to set us off onto the long weekend on the right foot. How's that for a hook? Anyway, we'll see you on the open hour tomorrow on the program. Still an hour to go on this program. We're going to stop. Blake is going to update us on what's going on the news. And on the other side of it, we are going to stop the program down and welcome our good friend, the veterinarian. Dr. Jeff Goodall will be here from the Sunnyview Animal Care Clinic in Bedford. He's going to be here to answer all of your pet-related questions, and I know you have lots of them. I know I do. It's getting into that fall season. How do we best care for our furry or finned or feathered friends? How's that? Dr. Jeff Goodall will be your guest. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We are back in minutes. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. It is Thursday. It's time for our reasonably routine visit with the doctor. I think Dr. Goodall probably likes routine visits as opposed to the emergency ones. Dr. Goodall, of course, is our resident veterinarian from the Sunnyview Animal Care Clinic up there in Bedford, and joins me on the phone. Dr. Goodall, how are you?
I'm good, Dan. How are you?
I am well, sir. Busy time, I would imagine.
I think we're always busy. We're blessed with being busy at Sunnyview, so nope, nothing unusual anyway.
I thought about
steady stuff.
I thought about you, Dr. Goodall, a couple of weeks ago when I was out covering the Bears Lake wildfire, and you got a bit of. I live very close to where that was, and I got a bit of a shock / rude awakening about not being prepared. Should I have to evacuate, considering that the fire was like a kilometer from my house? Luckily, I did not have to evacuate, but there are some in Nova Scotia that have had to evacuate, and unfortunately some that have lost some of their property or their houses. When we prepare for emergencies, we often think about that 72-hour kit, right? Make sure you have enough water and all of that stuff for our humans. But I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, that sometimes we forget about our furred or feathered or finned friends.
Right. So I'm glad you brought up furred and feathered. So basically, I just thought we'd open today with just reminding people And I think I sent a link to Vanessa so she can put that up for the Nova Scotia Environmental Disaster Preparedness. But most people know that they should have a leash and a harness and maybe the food and water for, say, I don't know, up to a week supply would be a good idea. Cleaning supplies, paper towels, poop bags. But I do believe, and I could be mistaken, but the few people that I've dealt with, especially a few years ago during the wildfires in Hammond's Plains there, that, remind everyone that, you do need a well-ventilated carrier for your cats. Make sure that, like a shoebox, a cardboard box is not going to cut it. And so, it's time now. Like, the world is changing in many ways. And so getting your cat used to being in a carrier in a positive manner, and make sure that the carrier, maybe for each cat you have two if possible. One that's, relatively small for safe transport in a car, and then one that has a large enough area that a shoebox size litter box, water and food, room for the cat to comfortably lay down. Keep in mind that don't leave it to the last minute. Some animals will hide during severe weather changes. So, make sure, like I'm seeing a lot of people still letting their cats outdoors, and some animals are being lost where I live to eagles and foxes. Bring them inside, bring your pets inside early, leash them if you need to. Make sure if you haven't got ID on your pet, like a microchip, get that done now. And then the other thing that I think is overlooked too often is, start contacting friends, family for a buddy system, so that if you're not at home when a disaster hits and your pets are, maybe get a neighbor to have access to your home and tell them where your, if you will, your carriers, and, hey, I have a bag of food here, a litter box, whatever. Set up a buddy system now with a neighbor or a friend. I don't think that is talked about enough. Think about, reviewing your evacuation plan and know in advance where you might be able to go. With birds, and most bird owners are pretty responsible anyway, but, a secure travel cage. If it's colder weather, wrap a blanket around the carrier, warm the car up if you can before you put birds inside or out, or before you bring them into a clinic. Carry a plant mister if possible to mist the birds' feathers. Don't put water inside the carrier. That is a disaster. Have some, if you can plan ahead to have, your normal fruits and veggies. When I had birds, we had fruits and vegetables at a higher amount in the home. Higher water content vegetables. Again, have your leg band information written down. A copy of your veterinary records. I overlooked that one. Contact your vet today. Drop them an email. Say, hey, I just want a copy of my current records. Remember, veterinary records are your personal property. Veterinarians are obligated to provide them. In my opinion and understanding anyway. With reptiles, most snake owners know that they can pop their snake in a pillowcase, but remember, snakes will need feeding, so you might want to think about how you're going to manage that. A large bowl for water to allow the snake to soak in it. Maybe a heating pad. With small mammals, which I don't really deal with too much anymore, very secure carriers, bedding materials, food bowls, water bottles. So that's why I thought it was great you brought up, well, not so much Finn. I don't know how to manage and transporting a fish, but there you go. That's a really long intro, but with everything that's going on, I really recommend a reconsideration of what's going on over and above the typical stuff you see on the website. And I thought the buddy system idea that one of my technicians came up with, and the preparing on a regular basis to know where I could go if, heaven forbid, and having someone, if I'm out of the house, that, may know where an access key or security code is to get in and figure out where everything is. So that's a long answer. But there you go. Here ends the lesson.
It's one of the most vivid memories that I have covering the Tantallon wildfire. I was at the St. Margaret's Base Center there, or the St. Margaret Center, where the firefighters were, and I remember people that had evacuated very quickly that couldn't get back to get their pets, and volunteers were going in to get their pets, and I can just remember the shrieks of relief when their dogs or their cats were eventually delivered to them. It's something I'll never forget.
I mean, we had a personal family friend who lost their cat, Harry, and they were in the valley, and things moved so fast that they couldn't get home. But if other than those horrible situations, that's where the buddy idea came up from, actually. And if you need to evacuate, bring your pets. Even if they tell you you're going to be gone they don't expect you to be gone for a while. Severity of disasters can change extremely quickly, as everybody seems to know, but in the moment, you might forget. So, it's worth just getting a big cardboard box, start shoving paper towels and, Lysol wipes and an extra leash or harness, calling your vet right now, email, probably better because we're all swamped on the phones. Email your vet for your records, bottles of water in that cardboard box, reconsider your carrier and leashes and all that kind of stuff. And there's plenty of, I've shut down the YouTube channel for the last 2 months just because of health reasons, but I'll be restarting it hopefully mid-October, latest the 1st of November. I may do one on this for now. By that point, maybe disaster awareness is not on the front burner and I'll pick another topic. But I think that's enough said. Just start preparing ahead of time.
Dr. Goodall, along the same vein, before we get to the phones, the last, 3 or 4 days here in HRM, we've been under these air advisories because of the wildfire smoke that is billowing into HRM, and I would imagine, well, I know the fact that if the closer you get to that Annapolis Valley fire, the thicker that smoke gets. Are there any concerns for our pets when the air quality drops?
Mostly for birds. I mean, if you're having trouble breathing, then your cat and dog are going to as well. But I don't know what you're going to do about that. With birds, I mean, again, most bird owners are pretty astute. And, if I used to, when I had birds, I would take them outside with me I had outdoor cages and indoor cages and harnesses for them. Well, obviously, during this situation, let's not take them outside, leave them outside. But no, generally, if the air is okay for you, it's okay for your pet. Unless there's an underlying heart condition or respiratory issue.
Right.
Again, just like people.
902-405-6000 is the number, 902-405-6000. Dr. Goodall, our veterinarian, will be here for the next 45 minutes to answer your questions. If you have a concern, a question, a query about your pet, perfect opportunity to get some advice on this Thursday. We're going to take a break. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We are back in minutes. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. He is Dr. Jeff Goodall, our veterinarian, here to answer your pet-related questions. Have a concern, a query about your pet? Here's a perfect opportunity to get some advice here on a Thursday afternoon. 902-405-6000, 902-405-6000. Let's go directly to the phone lines. Dr. Goodall, we welcome Joe to the show. Joe, how are you?
Hey, Dan. We were speaking earlier, so
fair enough.
Nice to talk to you again. Hey, Dr. Jeff. Thank you. And I got a big cat. Like, he's huge. He's half Mancoon. Like, if he sits on me, like I brush him every night. I make sure there's no ticks on him. But he's skinny. His shoulders are huge. His hind legs are huge. But right in the middle, he's skinny. And I don't know if that's normal. And that's what I'd like to know. Like, his head is huge.
That's not it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
That's it. Like, he's a big cat, but he's skinny. And, like, he'll eat probably 2 cans a day. And I don't know if he's got worms, basically. That's my concern.
So then the cat goes outside?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I mean, if your
is open all day and my back door is open all day. Sorry?
Okay.
Sorry?
So, I mean, the first thing first, I would talk to your vet about just getting a simple dewormer. I mean, if that's what you think could be happening. Pardon me?
Go ahead, Dr. Jeff.
So I would get a simple dewormer. You don't have to have your cat examined for that at most clinics, as far as I understand. If your cat is this weight loss acute recently or just ongoing? How old's the cat?
I adopted him, and when I adopted
roughly, how old do you think he is?
He's 2.
Okay, so there may be an issue with the type of nutrition you're giving. For clients out there, listeners out there, if your cat or dog is losing weight, a lot of clients seem to think that they can just throw the dog on puppy food or kitten food, and that's a disaster because just eating oils and fats if you're thin is not necessarily a good weight gain strategy. So back to your thing. I mean, for all I know, maybe your cat is developing diabetes would be a thought. A few other things come to mind. I don't think you need to run to your veterinarian, but I think I would touch base with him or her, weigh the cat at home on your own scale, and then email your vet for, hey, what was my last weight on this cat when I had him first visited, or my first visit. And there is a thing called body condition scoring for animals, for cats. Google that. It's there's many different charts. There's one for Purina. There's one from the World Small Animal Veterinary Association. WASEVA is how we say it. Google that body condition score chart and give your cat a score out of 9 before you email your vet, and see if they are as concerned as you are and why. In other words, I can't answer your question, to be honest, other than, an anti-parasite medication first, weigh your cat, look online for the body condition score chart, and then decide if there is really a problem. Sometimes a little bit of ribbiness is actually pretty healthy, or healthy muscle mass. But if you feel the cat is losing weight or this is an ongoing problem, then it's time to involve your veterinarian directly, because I can't see what you're referring to, and I can't feel your cat to know what's going on. Cats are notorious for hiding disease until things might get to be a little more severe. So I'm not trying to scare anybody into anything, but, there are some simple things with the options I just gave you there to start, and then go from there.
Joe, appreciate it, sir. Best of luck with your cat. 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. We welcome George to the show. George, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Your question for the doctor, please.
I have 2 dogs, Morky and a pug, Willie Nelson and Rita May. And they're highly reactive to the point where Willie Nelson's 3, Rita May's 2. Willie Nelson's 4, Rita May is 3. And in the beginning, when they first got together, Rita May was really picking on Willie Nelson, kind of likes to get him going all the time. And they've developed this really bad habit of not only jumping up on people when they come in and getting super excited, but now it's to the point where if a dog barks half a mile away in the middle of the night, they both jump up and start barking. They're really, really reactive to almost any kind of noise or sound or anything like that. I come home from work, they've known me for years, and I come home from work and they treat me like I'm a new person. I just getting at my wit's end with what to do with them.
Okay, so sorry, just to make sure I understand, you're asking about 2 dogs that are reactive suddenly, or this has been going on for a while?
It's been going on for a while, but it's getting worse and worse all the time.
Okay, well, I dislike saying this, but it's not something I can answer on a phone call or radio show, really. I mean, if it's becoming a quality of life issue for you and the dogs, and it sure sounds like it, then I would email your veterinarian and find out what behavior trainers they are aware of to work with this, because it's not really a veterinary medical problem unless medication needs to be involved. There's a veterinarian, Dr. Juanita, I can't think of her last name, but she's at the Elmsdale Veterinary Clinic. You'll need a referral to talk to her. She's an animal behaviorist veterinarian, and she's excellent.
Okay.
There are some supplements that you could consider while you're waiting to get into the consultation stage with a veterinarian or a behaviorist. You could try Calming Care. It's a probiotic you can give to dogs that reduces somewhat their anxiety. It is not a drug, so you would not see an immediate response. It takes a few weeks. There are, NutriCalm is another one that we used to use, which has tryptophan in it, and I can't think of it suddenly. I'm having a bad day here. Anyway, a few things in there that are natural anti-anxietals, but those alone probably won't cut what's developing. This is almost about a year too late to start supplements. Also, too, you need to start thinking about, hey, we're coming up to thunderstorm season with any luck at all. Hopefully not lightning, but, weather's going to change now. It's time to move on this. I mean, literally, once you hang up, I would quite literally email your clinic and just say, hey, I need some help here. Maybe if it's been a while since you were into the clinic, they might request an examination. But if things go the way I want, you can ask for a referral to Dr. Juanita at Elmsdale and move things along. I think what I'm hearing without hearing it that way is you need this now. Juanita Ashton, that's the name. It took me a minute to remember. Dr. Juanita Ashton. Okay. And at the same time, you can start some supplements. Calming Care would be where I would start probably as a sort of a foundation, and then take things from there. I hope that helps, but it's a little vague.
Yeah, even just to be able to get them to sleep at night, like someone had mentioned, we could give them small doses of melatonin, or there's a calming stuff for pets that's a CBD oil kind of thing. But I'm iffy on that because I don't know how they react to it.
Well, I mean, Dr. Goodall will tell you all that kind of stuff. I already mentioned a couple of really reputable supplements. CBD, all you're really doing is zonking the dog. I think CBD has a really good indication for vomiting, maybe with seizure management. Maybe some clients say it helps with pain, but it's not. From what I understand with CBD, with people, it can mask your symptoms of anxiety but not treat them. So you're looking for treatment. You're looking for a resolution. You're looking for options, and you need guidance on that. So, you can fumble around with supplements. I would argue, again, I come back to NutriCalm, Calming Care, Composure Pro treats. That's another thing you can pick up over the counter in your veterinary clinic that has, again, the tryptophan, and maybe there's melatonin in one of those, and a few other things. And clients really find, especially if they're anticipating a thunderstorm and all those kind of things, it can make a significant difference without medication. So, no, I'm not saying don't do CBD or melatonin. I just don't find that they alone do enough.
George, best of luck. We're up against the break. Dr. Goodall will be here on the other side of it. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. We are back in minutes. Welcome back. This is the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. Hope you're having a fantastic day. On the line with us, of course, is our veterinarian, Dr. Jeff Goodall, here to answer your pet-related questions. The number is 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000. Let's get right to the phones, Dr. Goodall. We welcome Marcia to the program. Marcia, how are you?
Hi there. Thank you for taking my call, Dan, and thank you, Dr. Goodall.
No worries. Pleasure to be here.
Hi. The question I have is, just this past Christmas, I received an essential oil diffuser from one of the stores in the Halifax Shopping Centre. Some people may be aware of Sage. And it came with 2 essential oil bottles. And I'm just wondering, I have it in our bedroom. So we live in a 2-bedroom apartment, so it's not an overly large apartment. And I periodically put it on in the evening just to relax, winding down for the end of the day. And it has 2 different options on there, intermittent, and you can have it flowing constantly. And so it could flow constantly for 5 hours straight, and then it shuts off automatically, or you could put it on intermittent speed, and it could last up to 10 hours where it kind of disperses the essential oil every 30 or 40 seconds. And I'm wondering, is that safe for my cat? By the way, my cat's name is Simon, and he's 8 years old, and he likes to lounge on our bed once in a while. So I'm just wondering if having that on for any period of time is dangerous to him, or if it's safe to put it on just the slower speed and maybe turn it off once in a while.
Yeah, so actually the last part of your question is what I would be doing. I think the product you're talking to, I won't name the company, but I think they've got some great stuff. I use them in our clinic, or we use them for our treatment area to help the staff stay motivated and, reduce the strain and stress that our profession's putting on people. But yes, I think this is a really great question. You need to, especially where cat, and you said it was cat, right? Or not or a dog, or did I mishear?
It was our cat, Simon, yes.
Right. So cats appear to be a little more sensitive to some of these things, but the short answer is I really doubt you're going to toxify your cat. It's more that, but there are instances of inhalation exposure to essential oils causing pretty obvious problems, such as obviously lung-related issues, but there's also alopecia, or loss of hair, behavioral changes. Just give me a second. I'm thinking to myself, behavior to the point of, so dermatitis, behavior changes, upset stomachs, and even in some cases, and I saw one a few years ago of mouth ulcers, and they are usually related to stress as well. So, I would go with the intermittent setting and turn it off at certain times, like especially if your cats like to stay in the bedroom with you while you're sleeping at night, which is what ours do. I would probably turn it off, or at least put it on intermittent. If you're not seeing, you've had it for quite a while, so if you're not seeing the dermatological changes or hair loss changes or respiratory issues, then you're probably okay. But it's when you change to another, if you will, scent or product, you may. And so just keep that in mind. Like, I do believe in those ideas to help us and maybe our pets. The last gentleman, or one of the callers, I was talking about, anti-anxietals, and there is something to that for us, maybe a little too strong for our cats, and you just have to use your judgment. And before I finish, for anyone out there with those little concentrated bottles, just make sure your cat can't get to them, because it's the concentrated form that is more concerning for cats and small dogs than maybe inhalant of it. But I have one in my office at work, and we have one in our treatment area, so we haven't seen any adverse effects ourselves. But I'd have to go back and ask my office manager which of the products of the company you're talking about are being used. But there you go. I think that's a long answer, but I hope it helps.
Oh, no, that helps quite a bit. Thank you very much, Dr. Goodall.
Appreciate the call, Marcia. Thank you very much. 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000. Let's go back to the phone lines. We welcome Rick to the show. Rick, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely. Loud and clear. Question for the doctor, please.
Yeah, great. Dr. Jeff, a quick question. I have a 5-year-old purebred Shih Tzu, and she weighs 24 pounds. She's a very stout Shih Tzu, even though she's purebred, and there's no fat on her. She's skinny, not skinny, but she's just not fat. But anyway, my question is I'm wondering if we take her for walks, my wife and I, and I'm just wondering how far is too far for a little dog like that. We're mindful of the heat and the fact that she has her flat face and all that stuff, but she typically walks over 2 or 3 times about 6 kilometers, maybe 7. And I'm just wondering if there's any way of knowing any way of telling if we're over exercising her, or if you think that's within a safe parameter for a 5-year-old Shih Tzu.
Okay, so just to make sure I understand, no health conditions in your dog, 5 years old, and you're walking up to 6 kilometers a day. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. Well, look, obviously your dog's tolerating it really well, but that might not be the typical for the listening audience. Couple things to keep in mind, though we may be past those horrible days of heat, but remember listeners out there that, hot pavement, hot sidewalks can burn dogs' pads, and I have seen it. We saw a case this year, 2 cases last year. So, think for your dog. Don't walk them in the heat of the day for the obvious reasons of burns. Now, specifically with a snub-nosed dog like a Shih Tzu or Boxer or even Mastiffs, those guys don't move air very easily into their lungs, so they can overheat quite quickly. And we can go through the symptoms of heat stroke at the end, but we really want to be thinking for ourselves and extrapolating that for our animals on those hot and especially humid days. Those snub-nosed dogs really have a hard time. The other thing to think about is, of course, if you're starting with a newer dog, your dog, sir, is obviously experienced with this distance. That would be a long distance to walk straight with the average little Shih Tzu, remembering their gait is going to be 5, 6, 7 times the rhythm that yours is. So we've got to make sure they don't overheat. Keep their coats close, but don't shave them. That's another thing we saw recently is someone shaved their dog for the last few months or last month or so, and then there was a sunburn. So, your dog's skin is used to having a hair coat on it. So shaving it can open up a whole bunch of other problems. Does that cover your questions, I think? I mean, again, just gradual reintroduction for the listeners, gradual reintroduction to those distances now that the heat seems to be breaking a bit. Work your way up and, use your own feeling, recognizing that your little dog, especially a little dog, will probably tire out sooner than you. And remember, little dogs are stubborn, and they'll probably try to keep along with you, even in spite of the fact that they shouldn't. So I think I've answered that. If you don't mind, can I go through heat stroke quickly, or is there
Sure, go ahead. Absolutely.
Follow-up you want on that?
Sorry,
go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. I'm very aware of the hot pavement, the heat stroke, the sunburn, all that stuff, and I'm pretty cognizant of all that stuff. I guess my question just centers around the exercise, the amount of exercise, the amount of walking itself, and if there's any sort of symptoms that I might want to look for insofar as even on cold days in the winter or whatever, if the distance is just too far for her, because I don't know.
Okay, but there's no hard and fast answer to your question. That's what I'm trying to indicate is, you have to, in the winter, obviously you have to think for your dog that it might be too cold. If you're taking a good breath in and it hurts your throat and your lungs, then it's too cold for your dog. But, obviously with Shih Tzu owners, you typically have coats for their dog, and they probably already got booties. And if you haven't, train your dog to them, because the opposite will happen in the wintertime, where your dog's heat, in the summer it's heat dissipating, in the winter it's heat conserving. Those mechanisms, again, don't work that well in the snub-nosed dogs. So there isn't an answer to your question other than what I believe I indicated, which is it was too much for you, it's too much for your dog by far. So anticipate the humidity, anticipate the heat, anticipate the cold and the wind chill. And it sounds like you're already in the zone that your dog is dealing with those things fairly well. But for the average listener, you're going to need to acclimatize your animal to either rising or falling temperatures, making sure in the summer you have a water source with you to make sure your dog can, have a drink. And I think go from there. I'm doing my best on your question, but it's not as specific, I think, of an answer as you would want, because I don't know. There is no answer to you can walk a small dog 3 kilometers and a big dog 10 kilometers, if you will, at once. It's, either dog can walk. We used to walk one of our dogs in Victoria Park up in Truro, and because of the shade and the water sources there, she could go for hours and not have a problem. But if you were out in an open field or, up, I don't know, in Annapolis Valley where there's not maybe a lot of sun protection, then you couldn't go as far. That's what I'm saying is it's a dynamic situation. So there's a dynamic response to that. I don't want to be too technical on that, but I'm doing my best there for you.
Rick, appreciate it. Best of luck, and enjoy the walks. We're going to stop and take a break, but Dr. Goodall will be here on the other side of it. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. We're back in minutes.
X.
Welcome back. Just a few minutes left here with our visits with the veterinarian, Dr. Jeff Goodall, the number 902-405-6000. Let's get right to the phones and welcome Mike to the show. Mike, how are you?
Fine. How are you?
Good. Your question for the doctor, please.
Okay. We have a cat that we've had for 8 years. She's a female, but she was a stray. My wife got her. But anyway, as of late, she's been losing weight and she's been doing her business outside the litter box. I'm just wondering what, is it dementia or something like that, or what?
How old's the cat, sir?
I'm sorry?
How old's your cat, sir?
Well, we've had her 8 years, but when we got her, she was a stray, and they figured she was about 6 or 8 years old then.
Okay, so so in general talking, we're talking litter box habit problem, correct? Nothing. Oh, and weight loss. Okay, so it's time to go visit your vet. For weight loss in general, different than maybe the first caller who was talking about weight loss. Here, you need to consider.
No, she is losing weight too. No, her appetite's poor.
No,
she's.
I
Sorry.
understand.
Go ahead. Yep.
I understand that. What I'm trying to convey is I can't answer the question without having some blood work, a urinalysis to see if there's a medical condition underlying that weight loss. Diabetes, thyroid disease, kidney issues, liver issues. Those would be the first things I'd be thinking about. Does your cat go outside?
No, not at all.
Okay, so we don't need to worry about, like the first caller, parasites. So I hate to make you shunt over to the vet, but in this case, the behavior change could be related to the weight loss. And if the weight loss is due to a disease or disorder state, then they could all be related quite easily. Dementia would be one of the last things you'd want to be thinking about because that's a little more challenging to treat. And a lot of the over-the-counter, in my experience, a lot of the over-the-counter home remedies just don't cut it for dementia. We call it cognitive dysfunction, but nonetheless, there are medications for that. But again, it's kind of a situation of before you jump to treatment for cognitive dysfunction, you want to make sure that the rest of the kitten's organ systems, I don't want to sound like I'm treating them like a robot, but you kind of have to look at the whole patient. And in the exam room, your veterinarian will watch your cat's interaction with their environment as well. So are you seeing any abnormal walking or gait, or the cat's hiding more often than usual? Any behavior changes other than the lack of using the litter box?
She's fine. No, she's fine.
So so that's going to be a little tougher, right? Because I don't want to overdo things, but I don't think you need x-rays and all this other stuff. I mean, some cats might be experiencing pain and discomfort that would make them not use the litter box. But again, that's what we call a diagnosis of exclusion. Exclude all the other things, and you're left with that possibility. Blood work for a cat is going to range, I think, $200 to even a little, with a urinalysis, up to $400, depending on your practice and its location. And, make sure when you're making this appointment to hold the cat off for 2, maybe 3 hours if possible, but 2 hours from access to the litter box. So pop them in that carrier. Everybody should have a carrier for their cat anyway. Make sure there's nothing in the carrier that they could. Make sure there's nothing in the carrier that they could urinate on in the meantime. So that the idea here is by holding off urination, the vet can get a sample without too much problem.
I see. Yeah.
And then, pardon me.
I understand. Yeah. Thank you.
And that's the way I'd approach that. And then, then treat what you see. If it's thyroid disease, it's not expensive at all. The diagnostic process is, but the actual treatment, twice-a-day pill, is very inexpensive. Liver and kidney disease, in its earliest stages, can be supplement and maybe diet managed. Yes, there are medications, but that's a discussion with you and your vet. If it's cognitive, there are medications and supplements that together can make a huge difference. Sometimes peeing outside the litter box can actually be unrelated to the weight loss and be an issue with urine pH or acidity, alkalinity, and or crystals. So there's a lot there that has to be kind of chewed through to get the answer you're going to need and your cat needs. How about that?
Appreciate the call, Mike. Have the best of luck with your cat. 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. Dr. Goodall, let's see if we can get one more call in here before we have to go. We run out of time. Marilyn. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Your
I'm
question,
here.
please, for the doctor.
My question is, I have a 2-year-old German Schnauzer. About 6 months ago, he started licking his paws when he comes in from outside, and I'm wondering if it's an infection that needs to be looked at professionally.
Okay, well, if it's been going on for 6 months, it's probably a contact sensitivity as opposed to a skin condition, though, again, without seeing it, it's hard to say. Have you considered getting some nylon booties, not the winter boots, but nylon booties breathe a little bit better and are okay in the heat? And that might be something that you can put on. I mean, is there redness between the toes or sores, or
No.
is your dog painful on its feet?
No, nothing.
Well, then it sounds like a contact sensitivity. It could also be anxietal behavior related as well, but I might think before you run to the vet, because if the dog is otherwise healthy, no open wounds, no redness, no pain, then maybe go to your nearest pet supply store and ask for summer boots to see if it's a grass sensitivity or to whatever, I don't know, and see if that helps first. You can get into Epsom salt soaks. That might be a way to decontaminate the feet if there's something on there that is bothering the dog.
All right.
But it's very difficult to advise much more than that. I mean, at your annual exam with your pet, in your annual consult, bring that up as part of the history so your vet can identify possible ideas. But I doubt it's something serious if it's been going on for 6 months with no other symptoms.
All right. Good. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marilyn. And
You're
thanks
very welcome.
to everyone who picked up the phone and dialed the numbers. Appreciate it. Dr. Goodall, very quickly, before we move on for the day, I guess. We got an email question from Dawn who said that a friend allows her cat to go outside regularly. The cat often returns with ticks attached. She then somehow, and he puts quotes around this, cleans off the cat. It must be a common occurrence in Nova Scotia. He writes, any advice or comments for cat owners who have ticks?
Well, there really is, in my understanding, only one. The problem with most tick products for cats is especially the dog ones, they're very toxic. The dog ones are very toxic for cats. That's the short answer.
Okay.
So you have to be careful. But, I don't like to say product names on the air. So it's worth a call out to your veterinarian for the topical product that's available for cats that really effectively gets fleas and ticks. And there aren't many, let's put it that way. But yes, there are products out there. You just have to be extremely safe with what you choose.
Do you see ticks a lot at the clinic?
Ticks a lot, yes, but not so much on cats. I mean, letting cats outdoors is a whole other discussion that if we can avoid it, let's just do it.
Sure.
We're seeing a lot of cats. We had one in the other day that was probably attacked by a hawk or something.
Right.
And, unnecessary expense and strain for on the owner's pocketbook and the cat.
Dr. Goodall, always a pleasure, sir. Talk to you next month.
Take care, guys. Thanks for listening, everyone. Be kind to each other. Have a great day.
That is Dr. Jeff Goodall, and that's going to about do it for the Thursday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. Thank you to each and every one of you who dialed the numbers and joined the program. I truly appreciate it when you do it. Thanks to Vanessa Vandenez on the other side of the glass for keeping things running in an orderly fashion. Don't forget, tomorrow, 11 o'clock, we're going to do so. The open hour is going to be there, but we're going to do something just a little bit different, and I hope that you can join us. And I hope that you can take part in it. It's going to be a little bit of fun as we head into the long weekend. Have a fantastic day, everyone. Be well, and remember, be kind to one another.